And we have Joseph, who's calling in from Texas. Joseph, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hey, folks, how y'all doing?
Great.
Doing great. You want to join a call?
Yeah. Join
Okay.
the call. Am I not already on?
Yeah, I guess by being on the call,
cult.
you.
Cult.
Yeah.
You want to join
I
the
was saying cult. That was a joke anyway, but
Well,
it doesn't matter. I was trying to be.
My bad.
No, it's my bad because Joseph, I was trying to be funny, and the problem is I'm not. So just ignore that whole thing. Let's talk about what you want to talk about, Joseph. Go ahead.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So what I'm calling about today is, well, I'm in a family where we all grew up Christian. We have a separated family though, where I have a different father than my siblings do, and they grew up in a very Mormon kind of backwoodsy town area, and they came back and forth. So they never ever really big on the Mormonism stuff. And I was raised Roman Catholic, kind of didn't believe it when I was a kid, deconstructed, and now I'm 27. My brother's 13 years older than me. My sister's 10 years older. And I feel like I'm the only one that's had my eyes opened. And I feel that there's a bunch of barriers that are not allowing me to get through to them and talk to them and open up their eyes as well, so they can be free from this dogmatic lifestyle they've been trying to fill into. Because I can see all the things that it was negatively affecting me, but now I can see how it's negatively affecting them and how it's taxing all of our relationships in the family. And it's just really sad. So I'd like to know how to talk to them more effectively, so it doesn't turn into a contentious argument every time of just shit throwing,
Yeah, that's a great question to talk about here. So first off, let me ask you, is it a subject that comes up a lot when you're around your family, or is this something that you want to bring up to them? Because I have different answers depending on what that might be.
So the reason I called today is because usually I've been always just kind of to myself about it, because I know they weren't very religious. Like, they were all kind of like iffy about it. They weren't really getting into it. So I was like, oh, maybe they'll kind of figure out on their own path that it's, not really true. But it's kind of gone the other direction now. And my brother actually reached out to me 2 days ago and sent a really nasty DM about how I was bashing Christianity and how I shouldn't be bashing something I don't understand, and how I'm pushing something that's manipulative and all this other stuff, right? And so I just frankly asked him, I was like, okay, well, what about what I'm doing is manipulative, and what am I not understanding about what I'm bashing? And then he just tried to blame it on, you smoke too much weed, because he's never been able to really have those conversations of, the hard conversations, because he's been so trapped in this mindset from how his father raised him in it, and how his father really manipulated him when he was younger. And it really hurts because it's come to the point of when I tried to live with him before and help him with his business when I was about 5 years younger, it almost came to blows. And I told him, listen, you can punch me in the face. I'm going to lay here on the floor, but I'm not going to fight my brother, okay? And we came to tears and hugged it out, and he apologized a year later, but now, I'm not around, and his dad's the only one around him, and, this stuff's getting back into it, and he's feeling like he's all righteous and better than me, and my cousin is religious and says the Crusades were good, and he's like agreeing with him, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And then he's, just getting combative towards me because he knows that I'm secular.
Yeah, this is the pressure that secular people have to deal with, right? And it's this like crazy idea that Christianity has brought on, which is like, oh, we're a secular nation, and there's all these secular influences around us, and Christians are really the victims, right? Like, Christians can't speak their mind and can't do these things. Meanwhile, how many churches are in this country? How many organized places of worship? How many, Christian media is out there? Yeah, there's a lot of secular media too, but it's like, Christians by and large are doing fine. It's the secular people who are having their rights threatened to be taken away, and having to deal with like these really awkward social situations where it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? If you stand up for yourself and say your mind about something, then you're going to look like an atheist asshole, right? But if you don't, then they're just going to keep doing the shit that they're talking about, right? So I think, if somebody's accusing you of something like that, or they're talking their shit, you absolutely have every right to stand up for yourself and your beliefs, because they're going to do it anyway, right? That nothing is stopping them.
Yeah.
Why should you be stopped in that? But if you want to bring that conversation to them and have them try to change their mind on stuff, that's a whole tricky can of worms. And I could talk more about that, but I want to hear Jimmy's thoughts on that too.
Well, yeah, I want to reflect, but hold on, crew. Don't make me big yet. Don't give me the big screen.
Okay.
I appreciate that, but I actually want to hear what Joseph has to say, because I think I'm about to flip the script.
Okay. Go ahead,
Joseph,
then, Joseph.
So I would say, no, I don't. I have never really brought it up to him because I knew that he was still kind of exploring it. It is not, it's literally in the last 2 days that he sent me, like, in the DMs. That's fine. I understand. Like, he was taking that first step to maybe like extend that olive branch so maybe we could start talking about it. Right. But then he got very preachy and like, I know better than you and I'm your older brother. I'm going to tell you like how it is. Right. And he's always kind of been like that. But the thing is, I don't want him to feel like he has to do that just to, feel righteous. I feel like he needs to open his eyes, like kind of how I opened mine, so he can be free of like all the things we grew up with and I see in him now. It's not even that, like, I don't care if he becomes secular at all. It just don't, buy all the crap and then say, oh yes, it's so true, just because it makes you feel good. Because I feel that's the path that he's going down, because right now he's kind of lost.
So I'm so glad that you said a few things there, because I wanted to make sure. I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. And one of them was, why did the brother text you to tell you that you are, being disrespectful to him, but you insist that you don't really bring it up to them or him that often, right? But then again,
no.
You're saying like you just want them to open their eyes the same way you did. And my question to you is, why? And just humor me, right? I know I seem like I'm going on the attack here, but why do you think it's your job to convince them that they need to open their eyes? Maybe you can just not say anything to them. And I'm kind of just questioning that whole dynamic about how these conversations are starting. And then, Joseph, forgive me, but I'm going to encourage you to take a step back from your own bias of your own side of the story and really ask yourself, are you 100% innocent in this? Is your brother just texting you and being forceful with you, or are you also instigating this beef with him?
No. So I wasn't, he messaged me because I have a cousin, like I said, that's a very loud car just went by. I have a cousin who's very religious, and he posts a bunch of things on Instagram, right? But I also go on Instagram and I'll debate back and forth. My bio and Instagram is, if we disagree, let's talk. Maybe we'll learn something, right? So he just has seen me interacting with other Christians and saying, well, no, that's not actually true, and you sharing a lot of the things that I've learned from y'all's show, especially from, I think his name is Justin, the Bible scholar. He has great stuff. And I just shared those things, and he sees it as me bashing, when really I'm just trying to give a different perspective, because I felt like once I was deconstructed, that it would be helpful for me to be another voice out there, just to be like, hey, this is something to think about. And he literally just saw those other posts and then said, hey, I've seen you commenting on these things and, all that other stuff that I told you at the beginning. So it wasn't even that I reached out to him and was like, hey, you should be secular, like Christianity is bad. I left him alone with it and was letting him kind of figure it out. It wasn't until he came back at me and like kind of attacked me for it that I was like, hey, man, like, what are you talking about? Like, if you want to talk about it, talk about it. But then he kind of came back and just was an emotional response rather than actually being like, well, this is manipulative, this is this, and this is that,
Yeah. So, I mean, on your topic of like how to talk to religious family members, unfortunately, I think the family members, the people that we're closest with, take the most offense to our defection. So I have had people that were in my wedding just stop talking to me, but I've got strangers that I can have easy conversations with and get along with. And there's really no there's no ownership of that relationship with the stranger as there is, with the family member who gets offended when you kind of turn your back on the cult, if you will. So I think there's a lot to really dissect there. There's a little bit of like identity, tribalism that's involved, especially if you come from the same place, right? If you come from the same place and then you go off on your same path, it's really hard to come up to accept this idea that, I was born into this family. Like, I love them and I know them, and nobody knows each other like a sibling, right? But I might have to cut ties. Or maybe this relationship just doesn't stay the same as it used to. I have a lot of family members I don't talk to, not because I'm an atheist and they are not, and they are religious. It's because their behaviors toward me and toward my children are disrespectful. And I've realized, like, all right, these have been my family. I've been spending holidays with them, but you know what? My own dignity and respect is worth nothing to them. And so therefore I have to sever that tie. It just isn't my job to try and get them to see things my way. It's just never going to happen. And so unfortunately, like, I don't have like great advice. If you wanted to mend the relationship with your brother, perhaps just saying, hey, look, I love you, dude. You're my brother, and we're not going to agree on everything, but I don't want to lose you. Otherwise, dude, you might have to go in a direction that you never really contemplated before. And maybe it's just not your job to have them open their eyes.
Yeah, I was going to say I've gone no contact before with him over other things, but the thing I was trying to say is, like, with my brother, he's not an asshole. Like, he's a really good guy. He has the biggest heart and a guy you would ever meet, right? He's just a lost guy that wants a direction to go in, and instead of looking for secular things like psychology and stuff to look into, learn about your brain. Why am I like this? Why do I react in this certain kind of way? He wants an easier answer of, like, oh, this says do this and that'll solve my problems and da 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 da. So that seems like the path that he's going down. And
here's what I'll say to this though, Joseph. Like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm hearing a lot of language of he's this way, he's that way, like kind of this labeling, right? And I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know your brother. You know your brother better than I'll ever know him, right? But even in just describing it to me, if that's the way that you're going to talk about him and talk to him about, oh, this is why you're doing it, he's not going to be open to that probably, right? Because that's going to be an attack on him. And maybe that's not how you're talking to him, but people can sense that as well, right?
No.
My advice is always just to be the most consistent person that you can be in yourself and your own business, right? As Jimmy mentioned, I have my own relationship with my family that's kind of tough to navigate because, we kind of do this stuff. And they don't like the stuff that I do, but I've always trying to be consistent in the reasons why I do it and the message and then which I say, because I'm the same way that you are, Joseph. I think that this atheism stuff is a type of liberation. I think it really is better for people to live the way that I do, or at least something close to it, than whatever I had in Christianity, right? Because Christianity was definitely trying to fill some holes in me that were never going to be filled, right? With the way that Christianity says it can. So, there's that sort of impulse there to want to spread that to everybody. But just like how you had to make that own choice for yourself, your brother has to make his own choice for himself. I think that's what Jimmy's saying too, right? Yeah. Like you can lead a horse to water, can't make him drink it. So always be giving him that water if he wants it. But at the end of the day, you can only be responsible for yourself, right?
Okay, so you're saying basically just drop some nuggets where you can, and pick and choose your battles because the relationship's more important, right?
Whether the relationship is more important, that's up to you. Some people, they decide it's not more important, right? Like, and I think that's a big deal because as Christians, right, we're kind of taught you need to love everybody, kind of no matter what. Sometimes like family's important no matter what. And that may work for some people, but it doesn't work for others. In fact, I think it makes some people's lives worse. I still happen to have a pretty good relationship with my family, but there's a lot of people in my community that don't. And they had to make that change for themselves because it wasn't healthy for them. So, you're just a little bit younger than me, right? You're 27. you're definitely at that age,
Yes.
just like I am, where it's like, okay, you're becoming your own person. If you're not already, which I'm sure you are, where it's like you got to establish these relationships as an adult. You don't have to have a good relationship with your brother anymore. It's not a requirement, but if it can be, that's great. But if this is going to be a problem, then that's something that he's got to figure out with you. That's what it sounds like, if he has that problem with you. But you can't make him. That's the thing at the end of the day.
That does sound like the healthiest route. Yeah, it does. If I wanted to thank y'all as well for one thing, if I have a little extra time.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
I have another point I want to make too.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Joseph, did you want to get that off your chest now, or you want me to continue?
I can hold it. Go ahead.
Okay, so listen, I think it's funny because Dan was saying, I think the best route is for you to just be consistent with who you are. And you heard, okay, so what you're saying is I drop some nuggets when I can. No, nobody is telling you that you have to drop any nuggets.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, you just be who you are, and you be successful, and you be kind, and you be happy, right? And your perception and your lifestyle will sort itself out with your family, right? So, for example, I probably have a lot of family members that thought, and I hope not, but maybe hoped that when I lost my faith, my life would go downhill. But it's actually gotten so much better. Way better. And I almost said orders of magnitude, but I don't really do math, so I don't even know what that really means. But my life has improved so much. And you know what would be weird? Like, if something terrible were to happen to me, some of those people would be like, well, see what happens when you lose your faith? I don't get caught up in all that. I just do me, man. I do me. I don't drop the nuggets. Unless it's given to me, like if somebody's like, oh, well, that's why you need to go to church, then we could have a discussion. Otherwise, hey, look at me, look at my family, look at how well I'm doing. Like, I feel good. I'm a nice guy. I get along with people. And if that's not good enough for you, I don't know what is, but I'm not going to drop nuggets on them. Does that make sense? And I think, I'm worried that you're kind of mishearing it, and you're a little just caught up on the fact that, like, you do need to open their eyes.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I do feel a responsibility because, like you said, when you get your eyes opened, you feel like you need to share it. Kind of just like when a religious person becomes religious, they want to share it with everybody. It was exactly the same feeling. But by nuggets, I kind of meant like if he reaches out and like tries to poke at something, like recently in one of those recent messages, he tried to say that the morality system from Christianity is so good. So I just dropped some nuggets of like a couple quotes in there that I was like, these don't seem very moral. They're not really the greatest. And so that's more of what I meant, not like reaching out and like giving like a daily nugget or anything like that. Just when he reaches out, drop one on him and leave it at that.
That's a good thing. Go ahead.
Fair enough. No, I just one more thing on that. Like, fair, right? What you're saying, valid. But sometimes, man, like, you don't even need to respond. I'll tell you what. I have a funny story. Okay, this really happened the other day. Good friend of mine, a guy that I'm in the military, but earlier in my years, I had a guy that I deployed with, and we worked well together. We were workout partners. I went and visited him a few times, and we had a good relationship. Well, he like went way off, like super religious. And I knew he was religious back then, and I was an atheist back then, but we got along great, and it wasn't an issue. I haven't talked to this guy in 2 years. Okay. After we had an issue where he was saying things on Facebook and stuff to me. And I'm like, hey dude, I'm just gonna bounce. And I cut him out. I didn't talk to him, and he got back to me and he said, hey, look, I want to apologize for being a bad friend. And I say, hey, look, you're not a bad friend, man. We're not mixing well, man. Like when we interact, it's not a happy interaction anymore. And so he said, you're right. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. All right. So that all happened, and it happened again, right? Like posts and things that I didn't like. I'm like, I can't do this. So he messaged me 2 weeks ago, and said, and sent me a clip of Jordan Peterson, which I sent a laughing emoji at because the first video, the first 5 seconds of the video was, this is how I take down an atheistic argument, which there is no atheistic argument. There's not a such thing. It doesn't even make sense. So I just put a laughing emoji, and he goes, my friend says, "Hey man, don't hate us, bro. We're just humans." And I'm like, "Hey, isn't this ass backwards? Like, I was living my life, minding my own business. I haven't talked to you in 2 years. You drop a video on me and then tell me not to hate you. I'm a good man. What hateful things have I done? How do I hate people? Please explain to me." And he's like, "Again, you know what? You're right, man. I just miss you." And I haven't said anything. I'm like, look, I can't keep going through this cycle where you reminisce on the old days when we liked each other, but then you constantly trying to proselytize me. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that. And I'm sorry for taking all the time, Dan. But no. This is convenient for me to share because, this really happened. I haven't talked to anybody about it. So, Joseph, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
But, I think you can relate.
I really enjoyed that. And, that did give me a little clarity. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for your service as well.
Oh, you're welcome. I always feel so, I don't know. It makes me
do you want me to say fuck you for your service to kind of even it out for you? Make it less awkward for you, Jimmy? Okay, never mind.
I appreciate it, Joseph.
Anyway.
But the thing I wanted to thank y'all about was I was recently listening to an atheist, literally today I was listening to an atheist experience episode, and since I deconstructed there's obstacles that you're gonna go through. A big one is the trans one, and the gender versus sex thing. And I've always been a person that's like, if I don't understand something, I'm going to defer to the experts, but I really have to try to read what they write so I can understand what the heck it says. And if I can't understand what the heck it says, I need to find someone that can explain what the heck it says. So I've been listening to y'all, and it wasn't until today that it really clicked for me that the whole thing of why it got taken off as a disorder and everything from all that is not because people just want them to feel good or anything like that. It's because it's quite literally not a disorder, because the only time they have trauma is when society is being a dickhead to them and not affirming it. And it made a lot of sense when y'all started talking about tribes in other countries that have, medicine men or something like that, it's more of a gender fluid thing, And I was like, holy crap, if society just wasn't a dickhead and could understand that, right, and could see that what we see as male role and female role is outdated and just a traditionalist thing in the West, then yes, we could, have everyone be fluid, and you wouldn't have to affirm that person being like a female. Yes, you are a man. You just be like, yes, there is no male or female. But right now, the best thing to do is to affirm it rather than to fight them on that, because you don't want them getting all sad or anything like that, because that's stupid. And it's a point that you shouldn't be arguing on anyway, if I think I understand that.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm glad that the ACA has been helpful for you on that, Joseph, because, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the skeptic community at large, especially YouTubers and stuff, like there's still a lot of them that push back against that, and some of them that still do, right? But I'm happy to say that the community is overall is very different than it was 10, 20 years ago. And, it's still changing and it's still evolving. And that's something that we'll always have the advantage of compared to religious believers, is that, we can change and we can admit that when we're wrong and stuff. And when we realize, hey, some of these ideas that we had, maybe we're phobic towards trans people and towards gay people and towards other communities, right? We can admit that and learn from our mistakes and move on. So good for you for having that realization for yourself.
And the other thing thank you, but the other thing I wanted to say too is I know there's a lot of people out there that see it as dysphoria or as something that just as like you're lying, right? And you're like going along with the lie, but it's really not. It's just you're affirming, like, yes, dude, you could be a dude and wear heels and a dress, and you should be able to. Hell, this is America, dude. Well, who the hell are you to judge this person?
Hell yeah.
Right? We should be celebrating, like, do whatever the hell you want, man. And if someone talks shit about them doing shit, as a fellow American, you should be like, screw you, man. And that just made sense to me, because I had a gay uncle, Uncle George, who was the coolest guy ever. But he was always misunderstood by the family, and I could see that as growing up. and he would, dress up as a girl sometimes and go out. And my dad and the older generation would kind of talk shit about it. And I always thought it was really crappy because I was like, Uncle George is like the nicest person in this family. And all he wants to do is go out and have fun and express himself how he is, And then I found out that they used to, homosexuality used to be also a dysphoria or a disorder until they got that off the books. And then society started accepting that. And then once I realized that, I was like, oh, so this is going to take time for society to stop being ignorant about something and actually try to learn about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can tell, like
really
you want to be an evangelist. You want to convert other people to these great ideas because you're more enlightened now. And look, that's an impulse that literally all of us as activists have, right? Especially when a lot of this stuff is still new to us. And it's a great thing to keep inside, right? Keep that fire burning. Because having conversations with people is really fun, and it's so great and satisfying when I get to talk to people like yourself, Joseph, who've like made those changes for themselves. So you can definitely be a change for other people. And you know what? If your brother is still having issues, maybe you can be a safe space for him to explore some of those ideas because you do have that trust with him and stuff, right? If he ever decides he wants to go there with you, but I would say, like Jimmy's saying, hey man, it's not your responsibility at the end of the day. You're an adult. He's an adult, I think, right? Based on what you're telling me here. And so he's going to have to figure some stuff out, but you can at least be there for him when he's ready to figure that out, right? So on that note, I think we do have to let you go. But I want to thank you so much for calling in. I would love to hear any updates that happen with your story. Please call in and talk to me about it because I would love to hear it. But for now, I will let you go, Joseph. Thanks so much for calling in, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Right, thank you.
What a great call.
Yeah, excellent. That was very beautifully put by you there at the end, Dan. I can't remember what you said.
Did I say something cool? I don't know. Well, listen, man, I'll tell you this. Like, one of my best friends, my best man at my wedding's a Christian. Right? That might surprise you because I do stuff with the ACA. I've known this guy before I did stuff with the ACA. I used to work with this guy when I worked at a Christian camp. And when I first came out as an atheist, a lot of my friends left me. I did. There was one girl straight up told me I was going to go to hell. I've told this story before on the show. But this dude was still my friend through all of this, right? And I definitely disagree with him on a lot of things. But you know what? He's never been bad is being a bad friend to me, and he's still a good friend to me today. And so one thing that's great about being an atheist is that we can judge other people by their actions, right? That's what's more important than their adherence to an ideology, right? I don't care if somebody believes in God or doesn't believe in God. I care if they're going to be a good person or not. That's truly what's most important to me at the end of the day. Yes, I would like them to see the light of reason and all these other things, right? And that's cool too. But like, if you're going to be a dick about it, what's the point? What the hell is the point? Right. So, it's kind of interesting that we had this back and forth here with Joseph, because I'm glad that you held firm in your sort of pushback a little bit to make sure that, like, hey, we got to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. Right.
Yeah. We want to tell stories and give accounts. And I think especially in the angry atheist phase that Joseph might be in, he might still be holding on to a little of that. We tend to give the account as if we're the good guy, we're the hero in the story, right? And we really do need to step back and war game ourselves, as we say in my community. But when you come up with a course of action that you're going to take, when you have a plan, you really need to step back and say, all right, now where are all the holes? And be the other person. Sometimes we contribute to the problem, And I do believe that my life has gotten better since I've gotten rid of my dogma. I do believe that I'm in a better place because I accept more people. I'm loving of more people, less judgmental. It still doesn't mean that I don't have my own biases and, other kind of these kind of cognitive holdups that we need to take time to go through.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that, like, I said we're being consistent. He's like posting on his Instagram and stuff. Maybe he's getting spicy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he did post a meme that went too far. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like people will remember that if you decide to go that route. I'm not saying that's not a legitimate route, because some of our most viral clips are when some of our hosts are angry and are speaking their minds. I think there's room for speaking truth to power, but there's also room for other kinds of ways of convincing people, right? Because playing to civility politics every time isn't great either, right? Because you'll always be on the you'll never have the upper hand if you're the minority in that situation, which atheists pretty much are when it comes to this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you have a personal relationship with somebody, that also has a different dimension to it, a different aspect to it. And sometimes we can conflate these different strategies that we have for different contexts, in thinking that one strategy is going to be effective because it works in a different context. And so it's important, like you said, war gaming it, making sure that we're making sense here. So yeah, good stuff.